Hello buddies, welcome back to X Recaps, with me, Mia. In this episode, I'll bring a plot from a film called The Untouchable. Be aware of spoiler. Be careful and watch out. Without wasting time, let's get straight into the storyline of the Untouchable movie. Take a nice seat, use your AirPods, bring your snacks, and enjoy the show. Driss is a man full of enthusiasm even though his life is very simple. One day, Driss took an interview to become a nurse for someone named Philippe. Philippe is a paralyzed conglomerate. Unlike the other applicants, it turns out that Driss has a different goal. The purpose of his visit was to get a signature as proof of his attendance at the interview. That way, he can get help from the government. During the interview, Driss actually argued with Philippe. He challenged Philippe to compete for knowledge about music. Even Driss tries to seduce Philippe's beautiful assistant, Magali. Philippe was a little annoyed by Driss's attitude. However, Philippe felt sympathy for Driss, and he decided to sign Driss's interview letter. After the interview was over, Driss finally went home, stealing Philippe's Easter egg decoration. After arriving home, it turns out that Driss lives in a small, cramped house. He lived with several of his siblings, making the conditions of the house overcrowded. After some time, Driss's mother came home and scolded Driss. It turns out that Driss has been missing without a word for the last 6 months. It turned out that Driss was unemployed. Because of that, Driss's mother was angry, seeing her eldest son as unreliable. Because of this, Driss was finally kicked out of the house. The next day, Driss went to Philippe's mansion to get her interview letter. When they arrived at Philippe's house, Driss met a maid named Yvonne. She told me that many nurses had come and gone from Philippe's house. In fact, Philippe has provided luxurious facilities for anyone who works for him. Driss was taken aback when Philippe unexpectedly offered him a job as a nurse for Philippe for 1 month as a trial period. Having no choice, Driss finally accepted the offer.
Cool.
Then the task of being Philippe's nurse began. On her first day as a nurse, Driss often made mistakes. Starting from falling asleep, cleaning Philippe's feet using hair shampoo instead of soap, and also accidentally spilling hot water on Philippe's legs, which were numb due to paralysis. Until finally, Driss was assigned to clean Philippe's ass. Driss got angry and refused to do it. He swore that in his life he would never do that, out of disgust. Finally, the task was done by another nurse. Then, task after task was carried out by Driss. Driss put stockings on Philippe's legs while grumbling. Checking mail for Philippe even though he feeds him.
Pardon. Excusez-moi.
The next day, when Driss was about to take Philippe to the painting gallery, he refused to drive a car that looked like an ambulance. Driss finally chose another car that was more luxurious. When he arrived at the painting gallery, Driss was confused because Philippe kept staring at an abstract painting for more than an hour. Even though, for Driss, it was just a random painting. In the end, Philippe bought the perfunctory painting at a price of 41,000 euros.
Je le prends. Ah bon?
Driss was taken aback, but he couldn't do anything. After a while, a colleague from Philippe warned him to be wary of Driss. Because Driss had just been released from prison for 6 months due to a theft case. He also reminded him that Driss was a rude and delinquent person. But Philippe actually said that Driss was actually not as bad as his colleague imagined, because Philippe was very satisfied with Driss's treatment. Philippe also mentioned one of Driss's strengths. Specifically, Driss is very good at entertaining people in unexpected ways. The next day, Driss discovers Philippe's secret, which makes him quite shocked. It turns out that Philippe has always liked to write letters to a woman named Eleanor. Since then, Driss has been curious about the special relationship between Philippe and Eleanor. Some time later, Driss saw Philippe, who was short of breath and had a fever due to the side effects of his medication. Knowing Philippe needed fresh air, Driss swiftly took him out in a wheelchair. Not long after that, Driss took Philippe around the city of Paris to enjoy the beautiful scenery before sunrise. While driving around there, Driss tried to give Philippe his marijuana. Driss reasoned that it would ease Philippe's pain. Driss finally asked about the love relationship between Philippe and Eleanor, because he was confused about how Philippe could make out, even though his whole body was numb and completely paralyzed. Philippe replied that Philippe had been able to feel a woman's romantic touch or felt aroused through his ears or by voice. Philippe also told Driss about his fond memories of his late wife, Alice. He said that Alice was a very kind woman. He was happy with their marriage, which had lasted for 25 years. But Alice, who lost a lot of blood during the miscarriage, finally died. Since then, Philippe has adopted a daughter named Elisa. Philippe then said that it was not this disease that made him feel miserable, but what made him suffer even more was the fact that Alice was gone forever. Philippe also said that he had only a few years left. After their warm and intimate chat, Philippe finally appointed Driss as his permanent nurse, because Driss had made it through the probationary period well. But at the same time, Philippe also asked Driss to return Alice's Easter egg decoration that Driss had stolen. It turned out that Philippe had learned that Driss often stole things from his house. But Driss dodged it, saying he didn't know about the egg decoration Philippe was talking about. In fact, Driss had forgotten where he had put the egg. The next day, Driss asked for permission to pick up his sister from school. But on the way, he stopped at the police station first, because one of Driss's brothers was caught in a marijuana case. Luckily, Driss's younger brother, Adama, was released because he was a minor. Driss sees Philippe writing a poem for Eleanor with Magelli's help. Driss was surprised to find that Philippe had never met Eleanor. The two of them had been lettering for 6 months. Driss is getting annoyed with the relationship between the two of them, which is not clear. Finally, Driss called Eleanor, whose number was in the mail. After being forced by Driss Philippe, he finally dared to chat with Eleanor. Some time later, while they were watching an opera, Driss said that Philippe didn't really need to feel inferior about his physical shortcomings. The moment they were together felt very close and warm. Not long after, Driss was seen painting an abstract painting that he seemed to find strange. Now Driss is doing his job sincerely. At this time, Driss felt that taking care of Philippe was a joy in itself. As time went on, Driss and Philippe's relationship grew closer. One day, Driss showed Philippe and the other employees a painting he had painted himself, and they liked it. Philippe's birthday is coming up in a few days. Philippe confides in Driss that his family has treated him like a dying person. This was contrary to what Driss had done to him. Philippe felt lucky to have known Driss. Finally, Philippe's birthday party arrived. Philippe brought an orchestra to enliven the party. On the other hand, Philippe was offering an abstract painting that Driss had previously made himself to his friends at a price of 11,000 euros. At the party, suddenly Driss walked onto the dance floor and started dancing. He invites everyone to dance together. A According to Driss, Philippe's birthday party had been boring. And it turned out that Driss had managed to make Philippe laugh out loud and be happy. After the party ended, Driss escorted Philippe to his room. There, Driss gave a reply letter from Eleanor to Philip. It turned out that the contents of the letter were that Eleanor promised Philip that she would go to Paris, France next week to meet Philippe. And not only that, Eleanor also sent a photo that is so beautiful. Because he was too happy that night, Philip could not sleep. The long-awaited day arrived. Philippe prepared to meet Eleanor, accompanied by Yvonne. Philippe, who was waiting for Eleanor, was nervous. For fear that Eleanor would be disappointed when she saw Philippe's condition. Philippe eventually decided to leave. On the way home, Philippe accidentally bumped into Eleanor. But Philip realized that it was Eleanor, the beautiful and elegant woman who was passing beside him. Day after day passed, Philippe kept trying to forget Eleanor. Until one day, he asked Driss to come with him on Philippe's private jet. Philippe gave Driss a sum of 11,000 euros. That's the money from the painting that was successfully sold. Philippe also said that Driss is very talented at painting abstract paintings. Day after day, they passed by, traveling while enjoying the time. The two of them, who are currently no longer like a boss and an employee, but already feels like a close friend. When they both came home, Driss meets Adama. He comes to Driss's workplace. He has been kicked out of the house by his mother after being caught using marijuana. Seeing that Driss was annoyed, he scolded him. Because Adama always makes a mess. Not long after, Driss was called by Philippe to his room. Philip then started asking about Driss's past and personal life. Driss began to tell me that he was an orphan from Senegal, Africa, who had been adopted at the age of 8. The woman who had been called mother by him turned out to be his aunt. After hearing the story of Driss's dark past, Philippe felt both pity and surprise. Because all this time, Driss, in the eyes of Philippe, who always looks happy, turns out to have a sad story. Philippe then told Driss to stop being a nurse, so he could focus on fixing his family problems first. Another reason why Philippe laid off the bridge was because he wanted Driss to be more successful working elsewhere, and not always just a nurse. Philippe also said that the care that Driss had given him so far was very satisfying. Philippe actually didn't want Driss to go. But that night, as a friend, Philippe did it for Driss's sake. The next day, when Driss was about to leave Philippe's house, all the employees gathered to farewell Driss. They feel sad because Driss's presence in the house has brought happiness and joy. In the end, they all parted. Before heading home, Driss and Adama intended to pick up their mother, who had just come home from work. Driss and Adama apologized to the mother and immediately helped carry her mother's bag. Then the three of them walked home together. Sometime later, Driss applied for a job as a courier for one of the companies. Philippe, on the other hand, had a new nurse. But his current nurse was not like Driss, who cared for Philippe with laughter. Now Philippe seemed to be more and more silent, as if he was uncomfortable. And no one comforted him like before. Until one night, Philippe experienced shortness of breath. The nurse tried to help, but Philippe refused his help. Yvonne finally decided to meet Driss, with the hope that Driss will be willing to take care of Philippe and get him back to how he used to be. The next day, Driss came to Philippe's house to see how he was. Seeing Driss coming back to his house made Philippe both happy and sad at the same time. But their Driss immediately melted the atmosphere by making fun of Philippe's appearance, which is now covered with a beard and mustache that is so thick. Some time later, Driss took Philippe somewhere. Driss quickly drove his car until they were both arrested by the police for speeding. But there, Driss didn't run out of ideas. Instead, he took advantage of Philip, telling the police that Philippe was in need of emergency help. In the end, the police didn't stop them. Instead, they escorted them both to the hospital. When they arrived at hospital and when the policeman had left, Driss continued on to the place that Driss had promised Philip. It turns out that Driss took Philippe to a beach to get fresh air and enjoy the beauty of nature that Philippe had not felt in his luxurious house for a long time. The next day, Driss took Philippe out for lunch at a restaurant. However, when he arrived at the table, Driss abruptly stated that he needed to leave immediately due to an important business. Before leaving, Driss gave him the Easter egg decoration he had stolen from Philippe's house. Then Driss told Philip that soon a special person will be coming to meet him. After that, Driss walked away, leaving Philippe alone. Philippe was both confused and nervous about Driss's sudden departure, because he didn't know who that special person was that Driss was referring to. Not long after Driss left, a beautiful woman appeared and sat down in front of Philippe. Eleanor was the name of the woman. Driss had been secretly planning Philippe and Eleanor's meeting, because Driss knew that Philippe still had feelings for Eleanor. Driss, who saw the two of them meet for the first time, smiled happily. He said that meeting Philippe and the woman he loved was the last gift Driss could give as a friend.